great, and I'm happy for you.
Yes, Don.
Couldn't happen to a better person.
Hey, well, that's what I said last time I was on your show, and you disagreed with me.
Well, I've been wrong before, brother. You know, I know I said you would never be nothing.
Before there was 106 and Park, before TikTok dance trends took over your feed, there was Soul Train. A stage, a runway, a cultural moment every Saturday morning. But behind the afros, the spins, and Don Cornelius's velvet voice, there were rules, unspoken ones, and if you broke them, you didn't get a second chance. See, Soul Train looked like a party, but Don ran it like a kingdom. Some artists never made it past the lobby, others got the invite and then disappeared without warning. Too loud, too wild, too real, or just too damn complicated. This ain't about who performed, it's about who didn't and why. From the Parliament-Funkadelic guys to Prince. Let's talk about the artists that Soul Train quietly blacklisted. Some were banned, some walked, some just vanished, but they all left behind stories. Cue the music, let's go. This is a maze where... Word was, Don wasn't exactly rolling out the welcome mat for James. Sounds backwards, right? Like Soul Train snubbing James, the man who basically invented the groove. But if you knew how things worked behind the curtain, it started to make a little more sense. Don ran that set like a tight ship. He didn't do chaos, and he definitely didn't do artists pulling up trying to direct their own episode. And James, please, he wasn't just showing up to hit his mark and smile for the camera. He wanted to call the shots. Lighting, angles, how the band moved, how the crowd responded. He was used to being the nucleus, not just some guest on a music show. So naturally, things got tense real quick. Every time the topic of James doing the show came up, it was met with a shrug and a no. Not out loud, not official, just never happened. People in the know say Don felt like James was doing too much, like instead of just performing, he was trying to hijack the whole thing. And Don? He wasn't about to let anybody step in and rearrange his setup. No matter how legendary they were, James never hit that stage, never danced down the line. Never got the Soul Train moment. It was one of those silent beefs that never got squashed, where both sides knew exactly what the problem was, but neither one was about to fold. Next, Sly Stone. People had been waiting on Sly to pull up and shut it down on Soul Train, and for a second, it actually happened. June 29th, 1974, Sly and the Family Stone hit the stage, lit the crowd up with Dance to the Music and I Want to Take You Higher, and even chopped it up with Don Cornelius. The fits? Iconic. The energy? Unmatched. It was the moment folks had been hoping for. But here's where it gets sticky. Word on the street is, that was supposed to be the start of something. Multiple appearances, maybe even a deeper relationship with the show. But after that first hit, silence. Never came back. No official fallout, no scandal, just nothing. People close to production say Sly was supposed to come back more than once, but it always crumbled. Either he bailed last minute or showed up so out of it that Don couldn't even roll cameras. And if you knew Don, you knew he didn't play about time, professionalism, or control. He ran a smooth ship. Sly, meanwhile, was coming in from a whole other orbit. So yeah, he did show up once, crushed it. But that invite back quietly vanished. No yelling, no headlines. Just Don doing what he did best, keeping it cute and keeping it moving. Another case of genius meets unpredictability. And genius doesn't always get a second shot. Next, Prince. Prince didn't exactly get banned from Soul Train, but let's just say nobody was jumping to send him another invite. Early on, he already had that thing. Quiet, intense, always dressed like he was headed to an after-party no one else was invited to. But what people didn't always clock, Prince was a control freak in the most dramatic, genius way. Every single detail had to move how he said, his sound, his lights, even how a camera blinked at him. So when Soul Train tried to slot him in, it got messy fast. That show was quick and tight. No live mics, just lip sync and glide. And Prince hated all of it. Word was he thought miming on TV was disrespectful to the art, and beyond that, he was pulling up with a whole wish list. Gear, setup, lighting, sound, the works. They tried to make it happen a couple times, but Don was over it. He wasn't the type to beg anybody, especially not someone rewriting the playbook during rehearsal. That show ran like clockwork, and Prince was out here trying to change time zones. Eventually, the calls stopped. No drama, no headlines, just silence. They both had their standards, and neither one was about to fold. Prince kept it pushing, built his own stage, ran his own show. Different train, entirely, and he drove it solo. Next, Parliament-Funkadelic. George and his crew weren't just doing concerts. They were pulling up like they crash-landed from another planet. Neon hair, moon boots, smoke everywhere. Guitars dressed in diapers. Full-on chaos with a beat. Fans were living for it, losing their minds every time. But TV people, they weren't exactly clapping. Don had a whole setup. Tight camera work, dancers moving like they practiced for hours, singers looking clean and polished. The show was smooth, funky, but in a trimmed, camera-friendly way. So when George's name came up, folks said Don respected the music. But the rest? That made him sweat. Because this crew, they weren't adjusting for anybody. No outfit changes. No toning it down. They pulled up how they pulled up, and the fear was real. 1 minute it's a taping, next minute someone's riding a space Cadillac through the studio ceiling. They might have talked about getting them on, maybe even planned it, but it never landed. Too unpredictable, too messy, too loud. Don wasn't trying to turn Soul Train into a full-blown spaceship crash, so the calls just stopped. No press, no shouting, just a quiet nope. Everybody kind of got the memo. They were too much. In the best way. Honestly, kinda legendary. Next, Betty Davis.
They say I'm different 'cause I'm a piece of sugar cane. Sweet to the core, that's right.
People said Don just didn't know what to do with Betty, so he did nothing. Betty was a firecracker. Loud, wild, unfiltered. She talked about sex, control, being a woman, being that woman. And she didn't dress it up or tone it down. She screamed. She groaned. She made grown men uncomfortable, and she loved every second of it. But Soul Train? That show had a system. Clean cuts, cool smiles, everything looking smooth for TV. Don had it down to a formula. And Betty? She was walking chaos in thigh highs and body glitter. She wasn't just bending the rules. She was stomping on them in platform heels. Now, to be fair, folks said Dawn saw her talent. She was untouchable, really. Married to Miles, writing her own stuff, blazing through funk like she owned it. But execs were already getting antsy about some of the other acts. And Betty, she was pushing way past whatever line they thought existed. There were whispers. Maybe she'd be too much. Maybe not worth the headache. Maybe Dawn just didn't want to be the one to explain to the network why a woman in gold paint was crawling across the stage, asking who was man enough to handle her. So the invite never came. Not a number, just silence. And just like that, one of the baddest to ever do it never hit that stage. Too loud, too sexy, too ahead, too damn much for TV, too Betty. Next, Patti LaBelle.
Couldn't stop thinking about you. Wanted.
Rumor had it Patti spoke up, and Dawn wasn't exactly thrilled about how she did it. When she rolled in with Nona and Sarah during their LaBelle run, everyone expected flames. But before they even hit the stage, things backstage were already off. No proper run-through, no decent sound check. Everything felt last minute and a little sloppy. Not exactly the welcome you'd give to a group that came to deliver. And Patti? She clocked it immediately. She wasn't one to fake nice when the energy was off. So yeah, she said something. Nothing wild, but definitely not soft either. Just enough edge in her words to make Dawn take notice. Dawn liked structure, clean tapings, no mess leaking into the frame. So when Patti made it known the setup wasn't giving what it was supposed to, he took it personally. Didn't blow up, didn't start drama, he just pulled back. Fewer invites, more space. Eventually the dust settled. Patti came back, and the love came with her. But for a minute there, things were frosty. That was the thing about Soul Train. It wasn't just lights and music. There were quiet rules, unspoken expectations. Patti broke one, on purpose, and she didn't blink doing it. Next, Rick James.
Give it to me, baby. I bet you.
Rumor had it, Don Cornelius took one look at Rick James and said, "Absolutely not." Rick wasn't just a musician, he was a walking riot. Loud, laced up in leather, high on something more than confidence, and completely off script. He dubbed himself the King of Punk Funk, and lived like royalty with no filter and no leash. But that brand of chaos didn't mesh with Soul Train's vision. Don Cornelius ran a tight, sharp, elegant ship. Soul Train wasn't just a show, it was a stage for black sophistication. Fly dancers, smooth transitions, music with groove, but manners. Rick James, he was everything but that. Lace shirts, thigh-high boots, lyrics dripping in sex, and an energy that screamed after hours, not Saturday afternoon syndication. Behind the scenes, folks say Don didn't even want to risk it. No meetings, no rehearsal talks, no, maybe next season. It was a quiet pass, the kind where no one says, banned, but everyone knows it's a no. Even if Rick had behaved, which, let's be real, he wouldn't have, his entire presence went against the brand Don had carefully built. Soul Train was about showing black talent in the best light. Rick James wanted to blow that light out with a smoke cloud and a scream. So the train kept moving, and Rick never got on board. And from the looks of it, he was too busy riding his own wave to notice.